For this project, you will need a DK weight yarn, tape measure, stitch markers, a tapestry needle for weaving in ends, scissors, and then I used 2 different crochet hooks for this project. I used the smaller 3.5 millimeters for the bodice to give the bodice more of a tighter weave, and then for the lacy flowy part I used the 4 millimeter crochet hook. So a little bit about the yarn that I used. I used a Trubu yarn, which is made from bamboo. It's a very lightweight yarn and great for the summer. It works up with this lovely drape, but I did find it to be a little bit splitty. So just so you know that when you use it, I do think the final product was really nice, but it did split a little bit as I was using it. They're recommending using the 4 millimeter hook, and like I said, I use that for most of the work, but I did go down for the bodice part. I used for the size medium a little bit over 3 skeins. So I would say for a small you could get away with under 3 unless you wanted to have a longer flowier top, then you may end up using more than 3. I have all the pattern and the amounts of yarn that I used on my blog at www.thecraftycrocheteer.com, and I'll link to that below. So to begin this project, I'm going to start working with my 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I've made a chain of 41. I'm going to skip the first chain on the hook and work into the second one with a single crochet. To single crochet, I'm going to go through the loop, yarn over, pull through. I have 2 loops on my chain, yarn over, pull through both. I'm going to repeat that into the next loop. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. And I'm going to keep doing this until I reach the end of my chain. So I should have 40 single crochets, and I will meet you back when I get there. So I've just finished placing my last single crochet. I'm going to go ahead, chain 1, and turn my work. Now for the rest of this portion of the top, I'm going to be working in back loop only single crochets. So let me show you exactly what that means. Here on my work, you can see right there I have 2 loops. So there's 1 and 2. See if I can show it to you here clearer. Right there, those are the 2 loops that make the top portion of the single crochet. The front loop is the loop closest to me. The back loop is this one right here. So to get a ribbed appearance for your work, you're going to only work in the back loops. So to show you that, I'm going to go ahead and find my back loop right there, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through both. And same thing, back loop, yarn over, pull through, and back loop. So when you do a back loop only, you get a really nice stretchy ribbed appearance, and that's what we want for this part of the bodice that's going to go around the chest area. So I'm going to keep going with this, and I will show you at the end how to do your turn, so I'll meet you back for that. So I've reached the last single crochet, and for this one I'm actually going to go ahead and grab both loops instead of just the back loop. And so every time we get to the end chain, just to make it a little bit easier, we're going to grab both loops. And now that I have both loops, I'm going to yarn over. There we go, and pull through for my single crochet. To do your turning chain, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and that chain 1 does not count as anything. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing that we did before. We're going to back loop, so find your first back loop, which is right there. And sometimes you have to be careful, because if you look at your row here, when you pull up to do your work, it looks like this is your first one, but when you move that out of the way, there's another chain right there. So make sure you grab that first chain, back loop only, and keep going. So we're going to do this for the entire length of the bodice, and it's going to give it a nice ribbed appearance. once I reach the length that I need, I'll come back and meet you and show you how we are going to do the next steps. So I have finished the first part of my top. This is the bodice. I've done 198 rows total, and what I need is something that's divisible by 3 for the next part of this pattern. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and seam up my ends to make, because from here on out we're going to be working in the round for the rest of the pattern, and you can see how pretty this is coming along. So let me get my setup ready to show you how to go ahead and weave in. So to begin joining the panels, I'm going to go ahead and find the bottom 2 corners, and I'm going to go through both loops, and we'll pull our yarn through. I have a nice long length of yarn, and I'm going to go through that twice. I want this first one to be very, very secure because I don't want it to go anywhere. But before I finish, I'm pulling the loop. I'm just going to go through the loop to kind of lock it in place. So now what I want to do is find each of the stitches on, and I'm going to try to work on getting the inside stitch because I don't want there to be a seam, since this is my wrong side and then the inside is the right side. I don't want there to be a seam, so I'm going to go ahead and get that dog hair out of the way and grab from the inside of the chains that are there. And I know that I have 40, sorry. I know that I have 40 stitches on each side. So even though the initial side is a little bit longer because it's looser than the final side, as long as I match up my stitches, I'm going to be just fine. So I'm going to continue grabbing a chain and grabbing from the inside there, and we'll continue working our way all the way to the end. And we want to make sure that we grab the right stitches, that we're not repeating, so that we end up with 40 on each side. So I'm going to finish this up, and then I will show you what the joined seams look like. So the 2 parts are now joined, and we have our seam here. And again, this is the wrong side that we're working on. This is the right side here, so the seam looks a little bit prettier. But this is going to be the back part of our top anyway, so nobody's really going to see this area. So don't worry too much if it's not perfect. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and make a slip stitch. So grab your yarn, make a slip stitch. And now we're going to change to a 4mm crochet hook, and that's because we don't need the tightness that we wanted for the bodice. We want the next part to be more loose and flowing. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a row, any row, and I'm going to just go ahead and slip stitch into there just to get my knot out of the way. And I want you to notice that for each of these kind of ribbed borders, there's 2 single crochet rows that make that up. So this is 1 single crochet, and that's the next single crochet row. So 2 for each kind of raised ribbed border. And that's important to know because you need to make sure that you're putting in the right amount of stitches as we go. So what we're going to be doing for this pattern is we're going to be doing 1 double crochet into each of the rows, and except for every third row, we're going to be doing 2 double crochets into the pattern. So for the first one, I'm going to do a chain of 3, and that'll count as my first double crochet. And then I'm going to look to where the next row is, yarn over, go into that next row and do my double crochet. So yarn over, pull through once, pull through twice. So now we have 2. Into the next row, I'm going to do another double crochet. Now this is now my 3rd one that I'm doing, so this gets 2 double crochets in there. And this is how we're going to make this top nice and flowy. So yarn over, go into the next row, right over here, and you want to make sure that again that you're keeping track of where you're going so that for each row you have the right amount. So what I tend to do is I tend to find the 2 ribbed places and I put 2 in between there. So we'll go first into this first one, and do 1 double crochet, and then again into the next space. That's double crochet number 2, and then into the third one we're going to put in our 2 double crochets. So find the area in between, 1 and 2 into the same stitch. So there you go. So I'm going to continue doing this a little bit more. I'm just going to grab a little bit more yarn. And this is probably the hardest row that we're going to be doing, because this is the one where you really need to keep track of your count to make sure you're not putting too many in. And this will give us a nice flowy top. So this was the one that I did 2 in, so into that row. So into the next one, I'm going to go ahead and just do 1 double crochet, and then I'm going to do 1 double crochet, that's 2, and then we're going to go to the next one over and do the 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets into the same single crochet row, just like that. So you can see how pretty that is. Let's do one more together. So now again, this is the first one we're doing, 1, and then, so let's try that again. That was 1, and then 2, and then we're gonna find 3, and since this is 3, this one gets 2 double crochets in there. Just like that. And then we start the count over again and go back to 1, 2, and 3. And remember, 3 gets 2 double crochets. All right, so you can see how it's already starting to get a little bit of a ruffle to it, or a pretty border. I'm going to continue this all the way around, and I'll meet you back and show you how to start the second row. So I just placed my last double crochet, and I'm slip stitching into the top of the chain 3, and then I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. So you should have at this point approximately 264 double crochets that you've placed in the border. If you don't have that many, don't worry. The main thing is that you end up with an even number. Really, 2 stitches above and below 264, or even 4 stitches isn't going to make too much of a difference. And you can adjust. If you want a more flowy pattern, add more stitches, but again, you just want to make sure you end up with an even amount of stitches, because for the next part we're going to do a bit of a mesh for this row. So I'm going to chain 1, and then that's for our first double crochet here. So I'm going to skip 1, and then I'm going to double crochet into the next one, just like that. And if you're worried, go ahead and put a stitch marker into this corner here so that you can keep track of your of where to go when you come back around. So I'm going to chain 1, we'll skip 1, and then I'll double crochet into the next one. Again, chain 1, get a little bit more yarn, skip 1, and then double crochet. Now, if you don't want to have the mesh, because let's say you want to wear this top and not wear anything underneath it, or you don't want the breeze, just go ahead and double crochet into each of the double crochets from the row before. So again, we're going to skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and I'm just going to keep doing this all the way till I get back to here, and then I'll show you the next row. I'm almost back to the beginning of the row, and I've put a stitch marker here to help me keep track of where to go next. So this is my last double crochet This is my skip one, and then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch right there to help me keep track. And then I'm going to go ahead and chain 3 and turn my work. Now for the next part of this, we're going to go ahead, and I'll remove this. We're going to go ahead and just double crochet into each double crochet from the row before, as well as the chain space. This chain 3 counts as my first double crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and go right into that chain space with the double crochet, and then go into the next double crochet. Show you that again, yarn over into the chain space for the double crochet, and then into the double crochet from the row before. So this is basically going to be our pattern for the rest of the body of the top. We're going to do a row of double crochets, and then we're going to do a row of the mesh of the double crochet, skip, double crochet, or the double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So we're going to continue doing that until we get to the length we want, and then I'll meet you back and show you how to do the rest of the sweater. So I finished up the body of my sweater, and what I'm going to do now is measure out, or show you how I'm measuring out exactly where to put the straps in for the top. So I've laid my seam in the back, right back here, and I have the top laid out, and I tried it on and I saw exactly where I wanted the straps to go. And when you measure it, it's going to be between 2.5 to 3.5 inches from the side here. That's exactly where the strap will sit perfectly on me. I highly recommend that you measure it and see exactly what works best for you. What we're going to do is between this 3.5 and 2.5 inches, we're going to place 7 double crochets because the straps are going to mimic the pattern that's here on the body. So we're going to have double crochets, then we're going to do the mesh, then we're going to do double crochets till we get to the end. You have the option of making the straps separately and then attaching them. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. I will probably make my straps separately so I can try them on and measure them and then attach them afterwards. So let me go ahead and show you how to make the straps next. So to make the straps, we're going to follow along the pattern of the bodice, or the body of the outfit, by doing alternating rows of double crochets and then the mesh stitch, the double crochet mesh. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and make a chain of 9. Get a little bit of good tension here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now our straps are going to be 7 stitches long. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and skip the first 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th loop from the hook, we're going to go ahead and do a double crochet, but what we're going to do is work it in the back loop. So I'm going to flip it over, find that back loop, and go in. And so we're going to have a chain of 3, which will act as a double crochet, our first double crochet, and then we're going to continue and put 5 more double crochets down, so for a total of 7 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead again and, if I can, do the back loop, and then that was number 2. I always think sometimes the back loops are so much more difficult with yarn that's a little splitty like this is. 3, 4, 4, whoops, not a half double crochet, but a double crochet, 5, and 6, last one, for a total of 7 stitches. Now we're going to go ahead and chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn our work. Now this chain 4 will act as our first double crochet as well as our chain space. So we're going to skip the first stitch because this counts towards it, skip the second stitch because that's where our chain is going to be, and then go ahead and double crochet into the third stitch there, and then chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and then in the top of your chain 3 from the previous row, we're going to go ahead and do a double crochet. So you'll have a total of 3 mesh stitches. So now we're going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, a chain of 3, turn our work, and we're going to go ahead and put a double crochet into the chain space. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So we're going to go ahead, go in there, double crochet, and then double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row, and then double crochet into the chain space, again into the next double crochet, into the chain space, and then again, just like before, we're going to go ahead and find the chain 3, the top of the chain 3, and go ahead and do a double crochet into there. So you'll always have 7 stitches in each row. So I'm going to do my chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and start my next mesh row. And I'm going to do this until I get to the length of the strap that I want. What I want you to know, and I'm going to put this aside for a second so I can show you the strap that I've already done, as you can see how pretty this is. This is also going to stretch. There's a lot of ease in this pattern, so I want you to keep that in mind when you're making this. Try it on, measure it, but remember that there is going to be some give. You're also going to want to, before you stitch it on, go ahead and attach this on to the top and make sure that your straps are in the right place. Everybody's body is going to be a little bit different. In the blog post, I'll give a general idea of where to go, but go ahead and make sure that you try it on, you measure it out, and you realize that there is a lot of stretch, and especially with the weight of the top, with these two, you're gonna have, this is going to stretch out a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up my second strap, then I'm going to meet you back and show you how we're going to attach these onto our top. I'm gonna go ahead and attach my straps onto my top, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. Now I'm working on the wrong side still, so this is still my wrong side, and I have my strap, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it through this side of the top, but through both sides of the strap. And I also want you to remember that we have a chain 3 here on both ends. There's going to be a chain 3 here and a chain 3 on this side here. We want to make sure to definitely include that also in our work. So to show you, I'm going to go ahead and I've marked off where I want to put my first stitch. And remember, I'm working on the wrong side, and I'm not going to go all the way through, so you won't see stitches on that side, but I will go through both here on my strap, and then go through. And I always like to go through a couple times on this first one, just to make sure it's nice and tight. And also for this particular for these particular straps, I'm going to go once this way and then I'm going to turn around and go. So remember, I have 7 double crochets. So that's 1. I'm going to go ahead and go through the next one and go through both on that side. Let me get my little thread out, and then again go through the next. So now I'm on my 3rd stitch, and just like that, and then we'll go to our 4th and our 5th, and then where's number 6 is right here, and then last but not least is our chain. It's chain of 3, so we'll go right through there. Okay, so now that I've gone through once, I'm going to show you that it looks pretty seamless on this side because I didn't go all the way through here. I only used the stitches on this side. So now I'm going to just go back and we're going to go through both again, and this time we're just going to pick different areas. The idea is to really strengthen it. And this is going to be where the top is held up, and if you don't want it to sag too much, you want it to be able to carry the weight of the garment. You know, this especially is a lot of yarn, so you want to make sure that it's pretty nice and tight. I'm just going to go through just to make sure, like I said, that it's going to hold up to wearing. And this is the tag from the actual piece. On this strap I didn't keep my tag long enough, so I had to use additional yarn, but I think it's going to be, I can just weave that in later. We'll make sure to get all of that in there for that last little bit. I'm just trying to make it really nice and strong and tight, and then we'll make a little knot and then do probably another one. And then I will go ahead and just weave this down into some of the ribbing so that it's not seen. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll weave in all my ends everywhere and show you what the finished product looks like. So our top is now finished. You can see I have the straps on, and I also have the body completely done. I'm going to post pictures of this. That'll go in the beginning of the video. I really hoped you enjoyed this tutorial. This might be my favorite top that I've made so far. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please do subscribe. It helps to grow the channel. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and please check out the blog post for instructions on exactly how I made this top. Thanks, and happy crocheting!